Hi, my name's Kate from Shrewsbury Town in the community and welcome to our series of at-home workouts. These are tailored to anyone, so you can do the whole exercise seated or standing, no matter your ability. I've got my glamorous assistant Harry with me today.
Hi guys.
Harry's going to be doing all of the seated options and I'll be doing standing and with some support. It's a good idea to make sure that your surroundings are safe, so make sure there's no loose rugs or carpets underneath you. You have a good stable chair to hand, preferably a dining room chair. You might use some things to help you with your workout today, like some weights. I would recommend using very light dumbbells, 1 kilogram or 1.5 kilograms, or 2 cans of beans or 2 small bottles of water would be ideal, or you can just use your body weight. Just be mindful of how you feel today. Make sure there's no medication changes or anything that might make you feel unwell. But if you're feeling fit and active, let's do our warm-up, do our workout, and then have a stretch. Enjoy! Okay, let's get started. These are going to be quite short workouts, so we want to try and remain active as much as possible, all the way through. Let's start with a nice easy warm-up by marching on the spot, with just thinking about our feet. I want you to focus on the way that your feet are connecting into the floor, toes through to heels, making sure we give weight to every part of our foot so we're not in our tiptoes. If you're like Harry and you're doing our exercises seated today, just make sure that you're sat in the first third of your chair. Make sure your knees are at right angles so that your shins are vertical. This is just for safety. And really challenging when you're seated, try to stay tall. Always think shoulders, ribs and hips neatly stacked in a tall tower, engaging the tummy muscles. And that goes for us who are standing as well. So shoulders are back, we've got a long neck and an open smile. Hopefully the heart rate is lifting gently now. So we're going to take our feet into a resting position and start to do some nice big shoulder shrugs. Lifting the shoulders right up to the ears and then actively pulling the fingertips down towards the floor. This is a really nice opportunity to take big, deep breaths. So in through the nose and out through the mouth. We want to try and keep this deep breathing all the way through our session today. Never holding the breath or restricting it. We do want to breathe a little bit harder. We want our heart rate to lift, but we never want to be so out of breath that you couldn't talk in full sentences. So just be mindful of how hard you're working. We're just looking for some low to moderate movement for half an hour. Okay, let's go back to our gentle marching. This time, if you're standing, we might try and think about lifting the knees just a little bit higher. That might mean that you need to slow down, but we do want to think about lifting the knees a little bit higher. This is also going to test our postural muscles, so tummy muscles need to switch on for balance. You might feel this work in the lower back, but it's a really good way to switch everything on, just that moment of balance. If you're seated, again, we can slow down and bring the knees just a touch higher. If you're starting to feel a bit fatigued at the front of the hips, don't worry, that's completely natural if you're new to this kind of work. Let's let the feet settle again and come back into our arms. We're going to touch the shoulders, reach the arms forward, touch the shoulders and back to the hips. Again, we can take these lovely sighing breaths. This is just a nice way to wake up the elbows, wake up the shoulder joints. We're asking them to move, and that's going to ask the body to give a little bit of the synovial fluid in the joints. That's a bit technical, but basically, if we were like the Tin Man, this is essentially putting oil in the joints. It's just waking up the body. And it's a good opportunity to take those deep breaths again. One more time, we're going to set things up a little bit more now. So we're back into our marching when we're ready, but I want you to start to bring in the arms. So we're swinging from the shoulder, not just the elbows like this. The whole shoulder moves. This will feel a bit like you're doing a bad impression of somebody marching, so make it really over the top, over-exaggerate that arm swing, lift the knees a little bit harder. We're thinking the Grand Old Duke of York style. This is another opportunity to sit tall, stand tall. All our postural muscles are working. As soon as we involve arms and legs together, we should feel a boost in our blood pressure, heart rate lifts, and breathing rate lifts. If this is making you feel uncomfortable, remember you can always change. If you're standing, you could sit and join Harry, or of course you can just relax, take it slower. As we're not live together in the room, it's going to be hard to monitor how you're feeling, so you have to be really mindful for yourself how you are and act accordingly. Okay, let's keep our feet moving. We're going to go into a heel dig. So using a chair for some support if you need, or of course you can change. Well done, Harry. Making sure you're still sat in the first third of your chair. Poor Harry's got the longest legs in the world, so sitting's not the easiest for him, but we're reaching the heel forward, trying to expose all the underneath of our shoes forward, toes pointing towards the ceiling. We're just working the ankle in a different way here. If we wanted to use the arms as well, we could do a bicep curl at the same time. If the coordination is going to trip you up, don't worry, just leave the arms down. Okay, let's try something a little bit different. So we've had our feet coming forward, we're going to send them backwards now. So feet are together, I'm going to tap one foot behind me, bring the feet back together and try the other one next. I like to imagine there's a button on the floor behind me, I just press the button and bring my feet back together. If you're seated, you'll just tap one toe further underneath your seat. When you're seated, this is a nice way to open out the quadricep, the front of the thigh and the knee joint. If you're standing like me, we're working into our hips here. And again, we're seeing a different movement in the ankle. If you wanted to bring your arms in, you could add a reach forward at the same time. Again, if coordination is going to trip you up, by all means, keep your arms low. Now we need to keep our feet moving. We've done our forwards and backwards moves. It's time to do some side to side. So I'm going to take some single side steps away from my chair and back together. Harry's going to do something a little bit different. He's going to imagine his feet are on a newspaper and he's going to tap his foot off the newspaper and back on one at a time. Ooh, like it's hard to talk about what you're doing when I'm doing something a bit different. Yeah. But we're working the sides of the body here. As we move forwards and backwards through life, it's very rare that we step sideways, so it's nice to work on these muscles around the outer thigh and into the hip. If you have had a hip replacement at any point, you can keep your step very, very narrow, or alternatively just come back to some marching if it's uncomfortable for you to take this step. We could bring on our arms as well to mirror exactly what our feet are doing. If you're seated, it looks a little bit more like a half star jump, a half jack. And if you're with me, I'm just waving our arms and legs around. Perfect. Coming back to a gentle march now, we can just roll the shoulders out, make sure we're all loosey-goosey. It's probably about time to get into our workout. So the first exercise we're going to see, we already know, we've practiced. It's marching and side steps. We're going to do each move for 45 seconds and then we'll have a moment of pause. And that moment's really important. It's just a time for you to take deeper breaths and check that you feel confident and happy to carry on. Remember, nothing is set in stone. So if you're standing with me and then you want to sit and do some of the exercises with Harry seated, you can follow either one of us. So our first exercise today is our marching. We're going to really march with some intention, give it some energy. We've got 45 seconds for that, so let's go. So we're not warming up anymore, we're in the main body of our workout. So this is a little bit more, a little bit faster, a little bit more intensity, and we're really trying to take it up a notch in a mindful way. So we're never trying to get to a point where we can't talk in easy sentences. How are you feeling, Harry?
Not too bad, I'm just glad you're doing the talking.
Yeah, it's one of my special skills. So the knees are coming a little bit higher for me. Harry might choose to go a little bit quicker. And then it's just thinking about the way your arms are swinging too. We're only going to do this for a couple more seconds. So one more deep breath. And take a breather. This is a time to take obviously some deeper breaths and let the body find a little bit of quiet before we go to our next move, which is our side steps out. I'm going to mirror what Harry's doing by stepping my foot to the side and back together and then vice versa. So when you're ready, you can join us. If you want to use your arms as well, you absolutely can. Anything that's whole body, like I said, using the arms and legs working together will boost the blood pressure, make us breathe a little bit harder, and get that gentle exercise that we're looking for. Hopefully in a safe way. If this makes you feel unbalanced, you can always hold on to a chair and come from the side like this. We can still use our arms like this, in fact. Or of course, you can leave your arms by your side. And remember, any hip replacements or discomfort with the hips, just keep that step very narrow. Last two here, so make sure we're even on both sides. And rest. Well done. Those are our two moves. We're going to come back to them, so remember those. Our next one, we're going to use our arms a little bit and let our legs have a rest. So feet, if you're standing, they're going to be hip distance apart. I ground down through the feet with soft knees, bring my hands up, and we're going to do my favourite, some forward jabs. Now just be mindful, this isn't an excuse to slouch. We're not trying to actually be boxers. The shoulders are back and down, we have a long neck, and we're just working the arms forward and back. Make sure you're gentle with your elbows, so it's a soft, we're not jarring the joints. And this is a really good way to boost the heart rate. This always makes me really warm and really feel my heart rate lift. And I think it's just because we don't use our arms like this very often. It's not a very natural movement, is it?
No, not for me.
Is it hard to stop your bottom as well? Very hard to stop your bottom from wiggling around. You need to really use your tummy muscles. Break there. Now the next move we're going to see is, again for our arms, we're going to lift our arms forward like a zombie, down to the side, out into a capital T shape and back down. If you had cans of beans or 2 bottles of water, now's the time to grab them. This is a lateral raise and a front raise. Now it seems really easy.
With a little bit of weight though, it's pretty difficult.
Super difficult with some weight. But it's a really nice way to mobilise and use all of the movement we have in our shoulders in a really safe way. I'm not using any weights and I can feel a little bit of fatigue creeping in the top of my arms. It's an everyday movement sort of, but by repetition we turn the everyday and easy into an exercise. So by doing it for a full 45 seconds, we're just targeting the muscle groups and making them work. Lovely, take a breather. Now we've finished with our arms, we're going to go back to doing that cardio we already know. So that's marching and marching on the spot. So when we're ready, let's go back. At this point, hopefully, we should be feeling alert, awake. Our body knows what to expect. If you wanted to go for a little walk around your room, if you're standing, you can do. Just imagine that you've left the oven on or you're going to the shop for something that you need. So there's a little bit of intention and urgency behind our marching. So we've just used our arms and our upper body, and now we're going back to the whole body. It's a nice way to keep testing and tricking our heart and our lungs and our muscle groups. It's a really effective way to work. It doesn't feel too stressful, hopefully. Take a breather. Our next move, we're back to our side steps that we know, or half stars. So tapping the foot off the newspaper, stand back on, and then the other foot gets to go. And we can bring those arms in as well. You can do one arm or two, whatever feels right. And think about maybe some other options. Let's say that your arms are feeling pretty tired now after all those other bits we did. You could bring the arms into sort of a bent position like this, and that will just keep the lever lighter, so it makes it a little bit easier. Or of course, hands on the hips, if your arms are feeling really tired. But let's keep those feet going. We're working the side of the hips, the sides of the legs, and also a really nice balance exercise because we have to negotiate a lot of weight bearing through this one. Lovely. Take a breather there. We're nearly done, we're over halfway through. Our next exercise is for our legs and it's a squat. If you're seated, you'll be doing a half sit to stand, which means drawing the heels back underneath you, hands on the front of the legs. You're going to pretend to stand up, come halfway, and then sit straight back down. If you're with me standing, you might want to hold on to the back of a chair. Feet are hip distance apart. We pretend to sit down and then stand back up. It's that easy. Let's try that now, 45 seconds.
I can try going sideways just to give a bit of a...
Yeah, sure, good idea. So you can see that Harry's drawn his heels back for safety. It's a lot easier. He's keeping his chin lifted, his chest open and forward, and he's just going to pretend to stand up and sit down. For me, it's that beginning feeling of reaching your bottom back to sit on a chair. The knees bend, the hips bend, and then I stand up tall. I keep a little bit more weight in my heels than I would normally see when I'm standing. I keep my face lifted and my chest lifted. And the most important thing, no Elvis knees. So we want to keep the knees forward and back. If you don't feel you need support from a chair, you can cross the hands over the chest or bring hands to hips, either or. We have got, so you feeling a bit of warmth in the front of the legs, Harry?
A little bit now.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, how quickly we start to feel that warmth building just above the knees and into the front of the legs. We've got 5 more seconds. Let's try and see one more repetition. Fabulous. Take a breather there. We have that 15 seconds just to take a breather. We're going to add a different movement in now, so it's exactly the same thing, but we're going to stitch 2 moves together. So if you're standing with me, we're going to see a squat, and then a side leg lift, a squat, and a side leg lift. It's a very gentle movement. It's a very low level lift to the side. If you've had a hip replacement, just show me squats again. If you're seated, you'll be doing that half sit to stand, open and close, half sit to stand, and then the other way. Let's try that now. Off we go. So we see a squat and a gentle side leg lift. This can be a lot to ask for balance, so by all means, make sure we have the back of a sturdy chair or even holding onto a wall as we go through this movement. Again, we're really asking a lot of the front of the legs, a lot of the hips, and a lot of the balance as we try and stay tall even while we're doing these moves.
You can stand fully up from the chair if you feel.
Yeah, go for it. Harry, you can show that one. So Harry can do a full sit to stand. If that is good for you, if that feels good, that's always an option. Rather than the half sit to stand, because it's a lot. Especially if you're tall like Harry, that'll be quite a lot on the knees and the front of the legs.
It's a long way.
It's a long old way. Okay, taking a breather there, well done. We'll take a nice deep breath in and out. We have one more round of marching and side steps, and then that's our workout today. So let's go into our marching now, 45 seconds. Last time. Again, if you want to, you can walk around the room. Make sure those arms are going really silly, like you really should feel. We want to see that full swing from the shoulder. Lifting the knees a little bit higher. It's our last time, so we don't need to hold anything back. We can really go for it. We have 15 seconds left. Try not to hold the breath in anyway. Even if we're breathing a little bit harder, a little bit faster. In 3, 2, and 1, and take a breather. Final one now, which is our side steps or half star jumps, and then we'll have a quick stretch. And that should be a nice short, sharp workout that you can fit into your day really easily. But we're not finished yet. Let's go, last exercise. Tapping the feet out to the side, and a half star. So hopefully we've moved all of our joints, or used all of our muscles one way or another in a really gentle and effective way. As we know, the government recommends that we do 120 minutes of low to moderate exercise a week. If you followed this workout from start to end, well done, you've got some of those minutes in really effectively, because I hope you would find this activity to be that perfect low to moderate level. We can still talk, you can still whistle with the breathing rates. We've used all of our muscles, we've used all of our joints. whether seated or standing. So very well done. We've got 5 more seconds to get our last few in. 3, 2, 1. And well done. We're going to do all of our stretches seating, so now's a good time, if you have been standing, to grab a chair that is a really stable chair, ideally a dining room chair without arms. Don't worry if you don't have something like that, but do your best. So we make sure we're in the first third of our chair. We can't slouch back yet, we need to stay upright. And we're going to have a little stretch for our legs. Now when we've done some exercise, we never want to stop and just relax and sit down. It's not very good for our heart and it's not good for our muscles. We want to keep the blood gently moving around to recover and feed the muscles everything they need before we just relax. So we're going to do something that's really gentle to let the heart relax in a gentle way, keep the blood moving, which helps with recovery. It's good for everything. So we're going to do a couple of really gentle pedals through the feet. You might not even pick your feet off the floor, you're just picking the heels up. Right. And from there, we'll take 1 foot forward, long and away. So I'm going to use, we're using our right leg.
Yep.
Make sure the toes relax, so you can let your foot flop forward, put both hands on the left leg, the bending knee, and then just tip forward out of your seat slightly. You're trying to think about bringing your nose forward and not down. We should hopefully see, I'm going to beat back a bit, hopefully feel a stretch down the back of the hamstring. Another thing to think about is that imagine you're also, while leaning your face forward, trying to send your hips into the back of the chair. So a lot of fighting sensations as we try and lengthen out the back of the hamstring.
Hinge, isn't it?
Yeah, it is like a hinge. And if you have any lower back pain, this can be a really nice stretch to alleviate that. All the muscles down the back of the body are connected, so it's a really good opportunity to get a good stretch. If you want to, you can really over-exaggerate now and try and pick the toe up. That will send the stretch from the back of the leg into the calf and down the back of the knee. If that feels a little bit much, you could even come back to sitting and you should still feel a bit of a stretch just by pulling those toes up. Let's come back together, have a little bit of a bounce with the heels. We won't forget about our arms, so we can do this movement that we saw in our warm-up. Touch the shoulders, reach forward, touch the shoulders, back down. And then let's go on the other side. So left leg is long and straight, toes are relaxed, hands come to the right leg. We sit tall and bring the nose forward. Hinging from the hips and looking for a stretch down the back of the left thigh, the hamstring. If you wanted to increase the stretch now, you could pull the toes up, trying to get that stretch to move down into the calf and back of the knee. You touch toes?
Yes.
Harry's like me. Don't worry guys, we've just got really long arms, it's not. Sitting up nice and tall, keep those toes pulling back, see if you can still feel that stretch for the calf. Bringing 2 feet together, let's bounce through the heels. We'll use our arms for a moment as well, just to keep blood flowing through the body. Now we want to do a stretch for our shoulders. We're going to bring the right hand onto the left shoulder. It's a little bit like twisted this. And just let it relax. Then we're going to bring the left hand just above where the elbow is on this side. Walking the fingertips over the shoulder like you're going to give yourself a pat on the back, and then keep that arm pressed and hugged in tight. Take a nice deep breath and make sure you've still got both sides of the neck are long. So we're not trying to crowd out the neck. Shoulders are drawing down and we're hugging this arm in. I love this one, I think it's really effective. If you can send all of your oxygen in between the shoulder blades, so as you breathe in, try and really expand the rib cage, side to side, front and back. That really helps to encourage the stretch across the back of the shoulders. And let those arms fall down. You might want to have a couple of shoulder rolls here, do a bit of wriggling. Let's bounce those heels again, maybe do some heel digs. We don't want to forget about our legs. Second side now, left hand comes to right shoulder, right hand comes just above the elbow. We walk the fingertips over the back, hug that arm in, make sure both sides of the neck are long. And then think about taking those deeper breaths. You might be familiar with this stretch. Usually we see it like this with a long straight arm, but I think bending the arm is just as effective, and this is just a way of keeping things a little bit more controlled and gentle. You have a bit more control over this area.
I think I feel better, to be honest, like this.
Me too. Since I've started doing this stretch as an adaptation, this is the only one I do now. So it feels great. Rolling the shoulders out. We're going to do one more stretch for our chest, which is really important. I think especially as we grow older or we start working at the computer a bit more and watching TV a bit more, the shoulders round. And what can happen, the muscles on the front of the chest will shorten, and it's going to get harder and harder to pull those shoulders back and stand with really good posture. So it's nice to stretch here, something we should definitely try and do every day. A couple of options: we can bring both palms onto the flat small of the back, draw the elbows together, lift the eyes, slightly lift the chin, and take a deep breath high into the ribs again, trying to expand the rib cage at the front. Your other option, you could reach both hands back and hold onto the back of your chair and just lean forward slightly. Or another one, which is my favourite, so you can stop at any point and stick with the stretch that feels right for you. My final one that I love to do, if you want to stay there and carry on demonstrating that one, would be to draw some nice diagonal lines. So my hands are in front of me, and I'm going to really expand, reach my fingertips back in a diagonal line. Top corner and bottom corner of the room. Keep moving. Wherever we are, let's roll the shoulders now. My favourite, always finish with this one, ear to shoulder,